And we are live. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining this week's Apple and Smart Home Tech live stream. A lot of exciting stuff to talk about. Great to see some regulars here in the chat. Hello, Keenan. Hello, JCM from Central Georgia. Hello, Frederick from very humid Central Texas. It is very hot and humid here in Illinois this week as well. So, I think I'm going to start with I've been using standby mode more and more. I talked about it in my video that I posted on Sunday about Apple Intelligence. A lot of interesting comments there and discussion in the comments of that video if you haven't seen it already. But for a long time, I just kind of ignored Apple's standby mode. I used it a lot when it first came out, but then I just fell off using it. But I've really started to enjoy it more, especially for having it around at my desk at work. I've been always using it as a nightstand option, and then like maybe one or two other places in the house here and there as I need it. But as I'm using it every day, a lot of the day at work. That's the thing that's really changed this week. And it's just so nice for controlling things like playback of music and podcasts. And I have a widget on there that shows me, when my next meeting is going to be, which is always handy. So if you haven't played with standby mode recently, I mean, they just since I'd last used it, they just polished up a lot of the details, and, it doesn't feel like it has many bugs or anything with it now. So very nice. And this is just with the stock 17.5.1 release of iOS, nothing with the betas. Standby mode. Turns out it's actually really useful and definitely something handy. And I want to talk about something else related to iPhone and some of the betas I've actually been thinking about in a minute. But first, let's see who else is in the chat. Yes. Good afternoon from hot Humboldt Park. Yes, it's very, very hot around the Chicago area today, for sure. Sometimes I like to go mow my lawn after this on Friday afternoons, depending on how work has been during the week. But man, today, if I do that, it's going to be a hot afternoon. Mowing my lawn. A thunderstorm rolled through. All right, Garance. Well, hopefully you stay online and everything. Good afternoon, George Langabeer. Great to see you, George. I really enjoyed your latest edition of your Apple Home tour. It's just always a great video over on your channel, named George at George Langabeer on YouTube. Really great smart home tour. Always gives me some useful ideas. You're clever with certain things. I love how you were using the Philips Hue Go lamps as bedside table lamps. It makes perfect sense just because there are these lamps that you can like pick up. I'm trying to pull up a version of these on Safari so you can all see what I'm talking about. But you just pick them up from their little charger, and then you can take them places and then put them back. But then they're still smart lights. It's not coming up for me on Philips Hue's website. Here, let's do table lamps. Here we go. This is what it is. Here, so I'll do this. Yeah, so this lamp was something that I thought was a clever idea. I'd seen these, but I hadn't really ever used them myself. I haven't purchased any yet, but it's definitely tempted me because I thought, oh, that's clever, and a lot of other clever ideas. If you haven't seen George's channel, go check him out. And I've definitely a good video to start with. Tour of his latest smart apartment. I'm amazed you set that up in 8 days. That was the thing that really surprised me. He basically just moved, got everything perfect, and then shot a smart home tour. Quite a busy week, I'm sure. But nice to see you here, George. Let's see who else is here. Good evening, everyone. Zane. Yes, I know. I think it's very late for you, if I remember correctly. So thanks for jumping on. Yes, Akara switches are reliable for long-term use. I use Akara switches in my one of my children's rooms, and it's working great. And they also have some random cases for like US style switches they cover. Now, I haven't tested the international version, so I don't know if you're looking at the US version or international. I imagine the international versions are just as reliable. You know, they have Akara is a pretty global company, so they have a lot of different types of switches for I think Europe and Asia and and North America. So yeah. Hello from Palo Alto. Very cool. Thanks for joining. Yes. Yeah. And be sure to smash the like button. Yes, Frederick, on both my videos and George's videos. Yes. Greetings, Garance from Troy. Yeah, you have to multi-purpose in a place this small. I completely agree. I mean, I have that a lot too with like my biggest smart home laboratory where I'm quickest to try different things is here in my office. And well, I have a wide angle lens here that makes it look pretty big. It's actually not a very big room. It's like 8 feet by 11 feet or something. So, and then pretty low, like 7.5 or 8 foot ceilings in here because it's a basement. So, yeah, not a lot of room. So I have to be pretty wise about how this space is used and pretty. I've always had grand ideas like, oh, I could fit this or that or the other thing in this room, but then it just gets to be too much stuff, and I have to just move it out. So this is the office and studio, and that's it. Hello, James from Vegas. Hello from Central Florida, Eric. Nice to see you here. Yeah, I'm surprised. So shocked. It's hot in Florida this time of year. It is hot here today as well, though it's supposed to cool off this weekend for us up in Illinois. So that should be nice. So we have some news on the smart home front. It seems like, because now maybe you guys can fill me in on the details, because I wasn't familiar with this product, and I saw Jimmy Hawkins over on Threads talking about it. But then I went to the Amazon page and there were a bunch of Amazon reviews. So I'm like, is this product actually new or did I just miss it? So you guys will have to fill me in, but it looks interesting. And I want to talk about some of the details about it. Whoops. But the SwitchBot universal remote. So, they have this new, like screen at the top, of course, and then they add on all of their infrared commands. So if you're familiar with SwitchBot, they have a lot of like infrared commands. You can use their hub as an IR transmitter or emitter to like control infrared controlled devices, because there's a lot of fans and space heaters and all kinds of other stuff out there that works with an infrared signal, and of course, not to mention TVs and projectors and all kinds of other AV equipment. So you can then make those smart by then either using their database of existing stuff or training their stuff to then control your own infrared stuff. And it seems natural to have a smart remote with it. And of course, the thing SwitchBot, I think, really got their name for, those little robotic arms you can put by a switch or a button that can make something that's not smart, especially if you rent or don't want to change something about your home. You can make something smart that's not necessarily smart by, here's an example in that video of one of those little arms just hitting the button. People do it with coffee makers and stuff like that. So I haven't done too much myself with SwitchBot, but this concept of the universal remote really caught my eye and just seemed interesting of a way to have, it's a natural place where you want smart home control, where you're sitting down to watch TV and then you want to go ahead and, change the lights, the shades, any number of other things in your home. So I thought it's cool. And of course, yeah, I'm seeing Matter here on the page. I've talked about this in the past on my channel with SwitchBot, but I mean, their stuff was pretty early on in supporting Matter. And that opens up a lot of flexible options of things you could add to it as a Matter. I'm pretty sure their hub is a Matter controller. And then you can also expose some of the SwitchBot accessories that it controls over to like Apple Home as a accessory from SwitchBot. So lots of options there. Of course, if you already have a hub, it's $60. Anyways, is this new or not? That's what I'm trying to figure out. But it looks like an interesting concept that was new to me. Maybe you guys have talked about it. You've loved your Ava remote, Saul. Good to hear. Yeah, I've heard about that. I think, was that the kind that George had in his home too? I know George had a remote, universal remote. Cool. So this is the Ava remote. Yes, this, I remember seeing this now, I think, George, in your video. So they have a home. Oh, cool. Nice. There's like Sonos controls here. Oh, that's great. Cool. Well, clearly I haven't done a lot of research on remotes. I need to dig into this more because it seems like a cool concept, something that I haven't played a lot with myself. So maybe something I'll have to look at more for the channel, and some ways we can check out some remotes, figure out some cool automations for them. Because I think the more you can take controls of your smart home out of both your smartphone as well as out of voice assistants and put them into physical or, quick virtual controls like this, the better. I love all kinds of buttons and other ways to control your smart home that are like that, because, well, it's nice to be able to open the Apple Home app or whatever app, and it's nice to be able to talk to your smart speaker. Those are to sort of like fill in the gaps of things that you don't do regularly. And so, yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Now, speaking of smart home tech, that we'll get to some of your questions. I see some questions in the chat. I don't know if you guys have ever like redone or decided to change part of your home because you want to play with some smart home tech. And well, this has been a little bit delayed because I've had other things going on. This is one of those things for me. Natalie sent me a while back their Matter Smart Multicolor Outdoor String Lights. So they're sitting here off camera. You might have noticed them. But anyways, I just wanted to put them on screen so you guys can see. I do have those, and it is something I plan on setting up sometime soon. And then, of course, turning into a video. I have multiple other videos in line sort of in front of whenever that gets made. But yeah, and this is actually probably a good time to mention, I have a number of videos in progress. I don't think any of them are actually going to come out this weekend. So sorry, I'd love to have videos for you this weekend, but just not making progress fast enough on these videos. They'll come probably or sometime early next week when they're ready. So yes, with that, let's get to some questions. So you're excited about the SwitchBot Universal Remote too, Zane? That's good to hear. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I don't know. Like, I want to. It looks really cool, and I want to use it as an excuse to get into SwitchBot. But at the same time, I'm like, are you guys excited about it too? I don't know. I might check out the SwitchBot remote. I might not. I'm on the fence right now. I'm still trying to decide because it looks cool. But if you had to choose the best and cheapest HomeKit camera, Which would it be? I would say one of the TP Links, like the TP Link C120, I think it is. It's probably, it might not be the absolute cheapest, but it's probably your best performance per cost, assuming it's available in Germany. Yeah. So this one I reviewed it on my channel in December. And yeah, it's a good camera. This is, and it even can go outside. And I think I remember the right model number. I'll put the link to my video in the chat. But let me just pull it up on my channel here. Let's see. Where did it go? I'm Eric Wieland. Yes, so this video right here. And it's the Topo C125, not the C120. I thought I was getting it wrong because I didn't remember it being outdoor. Maybe it is weather sealed, but yeah, I would say this, and if not this, the Aqara G2H Pro is another good camera. You know, for budget friendly. Yeah, so this is the app, works with Apple Home, the C125 with Wi-Fi 6. It's got all the good stuff in it for Apple Home camera, and I still use mine in my entryway. I mean, they just sent it to me. This is another thing I really like about it, is that it has the physical privacy shutter. So, you know, you can have a physical barrier in front of the camera when you want to, which is nice. And I talk all about those details in this review. So I will put that in the description of this live stream. So you can go check it, or you can just look for it on my channel from last year. It's this new Apple home camera really surprised me, because it did. I was kind of thinking at the time, just another Apple home secure camera that I don't really know if it's going to do better than, you know, what I really liked at the time from other manufacturers. And it actually blew me away, and I was surprised, and it instantly became probably my favorite. If you are going with Apple HomeKit Secure Video, which we talked about last week, you may or may not want to do, but if you do, it's a good camera for that. So, good afternoon, William. Nice to see you here. Having a wonderful day. Good to be here talking about Apple Smart Home Tech with you guys, even if it's a bit hot. Yes, good question, Eric. So this gets into a story that I'm going to talk about in a video coming soon on my channel that I actually just finished writing the script for, and like before this live stream, and I will talk about sometime soon. So, yeah, it's tricky because there's the Chamberlain MyQ or LiftMaster MyQ, whatever it's called. Those are really nice in certain ways, but they don't integrate at all with Apple Home. And the company just continues to try and gouge everyone for subscription costs of, you know, like I think I mentioned on a previous live stream, I got a new car about a month and a half ago, you know, a Honda Accord. And there's this thing with like the Honda and MyQ where it's like, I could have the privilege of paying MyQ. I think it's like $170 or for 3 years to just to have a button on the smart, you know, the smart screen in my car to open my garage door. And of course, if I have it in Apple Home, so I can just use it there. But you know, MyQ wants to make all these integrations for pay features, and I talked about last week, of course, like there are there are reasons to pay for a subscription that I see a lot of value in, like some kind of a security camera subscription where you're paying for the company to keep up to date on detecting images well, detecting, people, animals, whatever in the picture, and supporting the, saving your footage if they do that in the cloud, or like sending you notifications with the image in the notification. All of that stuff, it takes effort. It costs money to have server resources for, or developers to maintain. So I feel comfortable paying for like ongoing support from software development, et cetera. But for something where they're just putting a button in my car to press that then triggers some cloud, and yes, of course, given it's MyQ, triggers some cloud system, it doesn't need to do that. So I just think MyQ is a terrible company, terrible service. But it's kind of like, for me, when we went with our installer here, it's really the only option we had for garage doors. And they're not bad garage doors. I mean, I think they're well made. We got a belt drive one, which is really nice because belt drives are so quiet. So if you have the option to get a belt drive one and it's in your budget, go for it. They're great. Yeah. But as far as, for Apple Home, I'm not familiar with a lot of garage doors that natively work with, Apple Home. Let me see. The good reference for this is Apple's webpage. What? It's not there. I clicked on the wrong thing. Let's see. So I went to here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. We can double check this together. Going to accessories here, garage doors. So iSmartGate I've reviewed. Maris are, these are a lot of these are like what I'm talking about, which is something you install as like an adapter on an existing garage door. But so it doesn't, maybe if someone else has used a fully installed garage door that works with Apple Home out of the box, that'd be great. Let us know in the chat. The one that I would recommend right now, based on my experience, and I'll have a video review of it coming sometime soon, is the Tailwind IQ3. So that's what I've been using in my garage, and it works great. That's something where you get the new garage door, or, assuming you're getting a new garage door, you don't have to, but like you use this adapter and controller to sort of retrofit your garage door to your smart home, and it connects with all the smart home ecosystems. So like, my plan is someday in the future, if I sell this house, I'll just leave the IQ3 in there. If someone wants to connect it to Apple Home or whatever else, they can. And of course, I think MyQ does still integrate with Amazon, but I don't use that. I would say the Tailwind IQ3. Now, if you are looking to get, that's not it's Go Tailwind. Here it is. This is the Tailwind IQ3 website, gotailwind.com. Now, a lot of what you'd order for this is kind of custom to the garage door you have. So if you're getting a new garage door, get that, then take care of this. But at least in my experience, this works with the newer garage door systems, and has been so far, I've been using it for about a month now, pretty reliable. So, and I, sometimes a lot of companies send me stuff. This one I actually just ended up buying with my own money. I probably could have written them, but I just, thank you for your support on the channel for making stuff like that possible. So that would be my recommendation for that. And without further ado, let's go on to another question. Good question. So basically, if you add a button into Apple Home, and this could be the Aqara buttons, could be Flick buttons, it could be the 2.0 buttons. There are a handful of different, there's, I think, Fibaro is another company that makes buttons for Apple Home. I'm pretty sure all of them, at least that I've tried. I haven't tried the Fabaro button, but the other ones, they have standard controls inside of Apple Home for a trigger, an HM trigger. Anyways, working with Apple Home APIs, but there's a trigger for a single press, a double press, or a long press. So you basically have 3 options within the one button. And it makes sense that you might want to toggle your lights with the single press, right? Make it like a light switch. You press it, the lights turn on, press it, the lights turn off. What I like to do is some kind of a uniform thing across my buttons that means the same thing if I double tap it. So what I've done for my single presses in a lot of places is based on the time of day, it does a different scene. So you can set this up. It's a little convoluted to set up right now. I'm working on an easier way to set it up, but you can do it in like the Eve app or other apps that do conditional automations where you add like, if this button is pressed and it's after 1 o'clock in the afternoon and it's before this time in the evening, run this scene, right? So you can set that up for a single press, and that gives you a lot of more intelligent interpretations of the user press this button at this time of day or whatever other circumstances you want to have in that. What do you do? Of course, toggling the lights on and off is a simple version of that. So and a great version of that. But then from there, the long press, I, for a while, had it across a lot of my buttons for everything off. And that to me meant more than the lights. It could turn off like an air purifier, a fan, stop the music on the home pods. Like, I'm done with this room. I'm leaving this room, shut everything down. And then the advantage of all that is if you have a standardized thing you do with that, then you can tell everybody who lives with you or comes to your home or whatever, hey, if you're in this room, you just, any of the rooms, just long press on it and it does X, Y, or Z thing. And that can be sort of a nice way to make a room more intelligent with just a button. But the problem I found with doing that with a long press is a long press takes a little bit more time. So I've ended up just moving that to double tap in certain areas. And in other areas, I haven't done that yet. So it's like on my list of things, smart home things I want to change. So, but yeah, it's having something like that behind a double tap where it's just kind of like a completely reset the room, just always just turn everything off, or you could turn everything on. I think it was Max Sparky, David Sparks had an idea a while back that I stole from him, which is sort of a suspicion scene where, and I have this with a button in my bedroom where you can sort of behind a double tap or a long press of a button that's maybe not quite as accessible, but accessible from your bed, you can do that. And then a bunch of main area lights in the home come on immediately. And so that could be another sort of helpful safety feature of like, maybe certain ones of those buttons, you double tap it and then boom, the suspicion scene turns on where it's like all the entryway and main living area lights are just at full 100% brightness so that like if there's some weird sound, you could, see if there's something going on, what's going on. So that can be a nice sort of safety feature without, it's not setting off an alarm. It's just turning on all the lights because usually if there was something bad, shining a bright light on it would probably be a good thing to do. So, and it just kind of gives you some peace of mind more than anything. Like, all right, I just turned on the lights. I don't see anything. Nothing's going on here. It was just a weird sound with the air conditioning or something else moving around, and it wasn't actually like a person. So yeah, those are some ideas. I'm sure there are probably some other clever ideas people have already chimed in with in the chat from some of the other real power user, smart home users here. But yeah, those are potentially some ways to use a double tap. Haven't heard of the SwitchBot remote. Okay, cool, John. Yeah, well, now you have. We'll see if I talk about it more. window air conditioner into HomeKit. There are, if we go back to the home air so this is Apple's, go back to this scene. Oh, now I lost my, there we go. So if we go back to this home accessory page, there's air conditioners. And I know, is it this one, the GE window air conditioner? Let's see. Press release from 2018. Let's see. I know there are some like Apple Home compatible window air conditioner units. I'm not 100% sure like what's available right now, or and I haven't tried any myself to be able to tell you like these are good ones to consider. Of course, now these ones don't have Apple Home support at the bottom. You could potentially use, there are smart plugs that have more capability in terms of voltage and power, maybe like the Lutron outdoor smart plug, and you could potentially cut the power on and off to it. But I know not all window air conditioners, I don't think, plug into a traditional 120 volt outlet. So or the 20 amp version of that. I don't think there are any smart plugs that are the 20 amp plugs, at least that are on the market today. ConnectSense made some outlets for that for a while back, but yeah. There is like Eve makes some Eve Thermo, which is a heating adapter for the like, you know, heaters in especially European homes, but that's not an air conditioner. So it's a good question. Maybe there's someone in the chat who knows more. I would start with maybe looking down the road of those GE ones or other window units that are Apple Home supported. You'll see the works with Apple Home, or now works with Matter should be a thing there, because theoretically I think that would show as a thermostat in Matter, and then you could add it there. So you might have better luck looking for Matter compatible ones at this point that then would support Apple Home because of that. So yeah, I don't have a ton of advice there, sorry, but it's definitely an important thing to get right, and it would be nice to have it be smart. You might also look, by the way, if there are buttons on the air conditioner, maybe you could rig something with what we talked about earlier with SwitchBot, where if you already have a window unit, you don't want to have to buy a new one. You can get one of those SwitchBot things that hits the buttons on something, and then you can make that smart. So like here, I'll show you this. This is what I'm talking about. So these little guys that hit buttons, and they're just a little robotic arm, and you can expose those to Apple Home via a SwitchBot hub. So if you're trying to make an existing window unit smart, this might be a way to do it. Depending on, you know, you could expose different buttons as different accessories, and might not be quite as straightforward or intuitive, but it could work. You know, pressing a button is sometimes about as reliable as possible. So yeah, just something to consider there. Let's go to more questions. Okay, yes. I thought it was officially released today or something, because I saw some people talking about it on Threads like it was new. And but then, you know, like if you go to the Amazon page is full of reviews, but I think the page is full of reviews for similar products that SwitchBot sells on the same page. So I think that was why. Let's see. I'm I'm guessing this was about the garage door openers. Yeah, Meros makes another garage door opener, which you can use as well. I just heard good things about the IQ3, which is why I picked up the Tailwind. Good to hear. Good times that IQ3 was easy to install and integrates well with HomeKit. So yeah. And spoiler alert, I will say, if you do get one, this is something I'm going to talk about in my review, but it's like the problem with the Tailwind is that they have to tailor their product for so many different types of garage doors that then their step-by-step tutorials I found had a few steps that like didn't necessarily make sense for what I was trying to do. And I think it's hard for them to get tutorials that actually work step-by-step for everything you have to do for yours. So just as you're installing it, keep your brain on, think about what they're asking you to do and try to, you can figure it out. It's not super hard. But just like, it would be one of those things if you were just like trying to follow every single last step without thinking about what is this step trying to do in the grand scheme of setting this up, you might get down a path where it's like, whoops, I need to backtrack. So just something to consider with the IQ3, but it's good product and seems like good company. Hello from Denmark, Europlane. Great to have you here. Yes. Oh boy. Good question, Paul. So the Ring unfortunately doesn't play nice with a lot of other people. So you could potentially get this to work with Scripted or Homebridge. Scripted is, of course, the system that has, stream anything to anything, and you can run a box that runs this open source software in your home, and then it can connect. Let's see if they have a, we're searching NPM which is no package manager, okay. So yeah, there is someone wrote a Ring plugin for Scripted. So yeah, I mean, you could give that a shot. That's one option. Unfortunately, there's nothing like, so for Nest, and we've brought this up, kind of a recurring topic on the live streams, but the Starling Home Hub continues to be an easy way to get Nest devices into Apple Home. So there might be reasons, a lot of neighborhoods they want or like everybody to go with Ring for the sort of community aspects of that. And there can be other reasons why maybe you already have a Ring doorbell on your property you're buying or whatever. You might be kind of locked into Ring, but if you're looking at something that is kind of along the lines of Ring in terms of works with one of the other smart home ecosystems, Amazon or Google, and you could go with Nest. The integrations of getting the Nest video into Apple Home via the Starling Home Hub is really good and very easy, and they just kind of take care of it all for you. And no one's really done the same thing for Ring. I really think that there's I really think that there would be a market here for Starling or someone else to make something like that for Ring, but I don't know. I haven't seen that, and Ring seems like one of those kind of. I mean, I know they're owned by Amazon, but like, if I were doing that as a business, I would be scared that Ring, like MyQ, would somehow get a bee up their bonnet that I did that and just sue me out of existence. Just seems like the kind of company that would probably do that, but I don't know. I don't know Ring very well. I have used their security system and doorbell in the past, and they're fine. I mean, they're reliable tech and they work well within their little walled garden. But yeah, I'd say if you're tech savvy, maybe try Scripted, or yeah, try and think about something else, or just kind of live with it. It doesn't work in Apple Home. That's what I did for a while with my garage door, and it works. And it's nice to have those smart features. It's nice to get a notification on your watch when someone's at the front door, which you'd get with Ring, you know. But it's just not going to be on your Apple TV and quite as tightly integrated into Apple stuff as, of course, if you have have everything connected through Apple's stuff. Oh, cool. If you have any non-smart air conditioner, you can use the Netatmo for remote control. I'm not familiar with that. The one other thing too is if you're back to the beginning of this conversation, if you have a air conditioning window unit that uses infrared for control, then of course you could use SwitchBot with their infrared controls, or Aqara as well. Aqara hubs have a lot of them. The M2 and the M3 have infrared emitters that you can use to send infrared commands to those devices and make them smart in your home as well. So infrared might be another backdoor into those. Another thing to think about, I don't think it does air conditioners, but the Bond fan controller is something I haven't used myself. It's the Bond Bridge, but that's another product that I've heard great things from other people. Basically uses RF to control, RF controlled fans that you might already have in your home. You can make those smart with a Bond Bridge. And of course then expose that to any smart home system you want. So maybe there's a backdoor there that could work for air conditioners as well. So let's see. And the Medea AC unit is pretty nice so far. HomeKit integration, cool. Yeah, I actually thought, did they even have that on the list? No, they didn't have that on the. They didn't have that on the list here, but on Apple's website. But that's good to know. I see. I use a Wemo. Okay, Supernova. Let's see. Yep, and here's good point. Wisp, as we just talked about, you can use an IR blaster. So I'm just catching up with all the chat here. Yeah, and this is a good point, by the way, because you could do the same thing. One of the things I thought about with my garage door was like, why do you need a garage door controller? Why can't you just have like a SwitchBot thing to hit the button in the garage? Because, of course, there's always the control on the wall for a garage door where you can hit the button and then it opens and closes, but you don't know what the previous state of the garage door is. You can never track it because there's more than one way to control the state of the garage door, right? Like the openers in the cars or any of the button in the actual garage, as well as any smart home buttons. So that's something to keep in mind with SwitchBot buttons as you might use them, is that depending on what they're controlling, you might not have a true on off, and you might get some sort of state issues there where something's on, but you don't know it, or vice versa. Happy Friday, Kevin. Scripted and Homebridge both work with Ring. There's a delay, sure. And the other delay that could potentially be there, I know for a lot of those local video bridges, is just the actual decoding of the video by the bridge in your home. So usually that's another thing, is like you can run Homebridge on a lot of different hardware, but if you're running like the Ring integration with Homebridge, you want it to be on the beefier side of the hardware specs for Homebridge, just because there needs to be a graphics card in there, sometimes running something like FFmpeg behind the scenes. And I think Scripted uses FFmpeg, which is, this open source video tool. So things to consider there. Okay, yeah, the usual question. HomeKit Secure Video Doorbell, no subscription. I mean, I would say either the Aqara or Belkin Wemo. So we're running low on time, so I'm just going to jump through some of these questions and cut to the chase. But there's those are kind of my go-to ones right now. If I was doing that for my parents, would probably be the Aqara one. Although the video quality is maybe not optimal because it's 16:9. So depending on where the doorbell is, it might not see the whole person. So that's where something like the Belkin Wemo one could work. Although I think, who knows how much longer Belkin and Logitech are going to keep making those doorbells. Logitech Circle View, another one to consider too, but I know both the Belkin and Logitech have both had their share of Wi-Fi issues with those doorbells. For me, Belkin has been more reliable, but I've seen other people continue to have luck with the Circle View. The last thing to keep in mind there, of course, is that the Circle View has had problems overheating in the past. So if it's a doorbell that's in direct sunlight, then your decision is made either Aqara or Belkin. So that's why I generally just go to those two. Between the three total options you have for that, I think maybe, yeah. So I think, anyways, hopefully that helps. Yeah. So yeah, you can do this. My guess is there's something in your garage triggering the infrared. Maybe it's like a security system light in a car or something else that sort of emits an infrared signal or something where there's light. Maybe you have a window, on one of the doors or something like that, that's light shifting somewhere, and that can trigger motion. So, that's probably your issue there. I would say, if you really want to solve it, given it's a garage, you might have some flexibility of what you can do with wired. I would go with the Aqara FP2 sensor. You don't need an Aqara hub. It's a little bit of work to set up, but then you're going to for certain know when there's a person in your garage, and it will turn on the lights for that. The other option would be just a basic motion sensor that's separate from the camera. I know the idea of having just the camera that does the motion sensor is convenient and nice, and it's a benefit of HomeKit cameras, but it's not always the best motion sensor in general. So that's something to consider. For debugging the actual problem though, without spending money, which is probably what you're looking for, you could potentially play with some of the detection areas in HomeKit Secure Video. I can't remember off the top of my head if those also play into the motion detection. I think they do, but they might not. But you could play with just detect motion in these zones of the picture, which you can set in the home settings, and then see if that helps with that. Give that a shot. Yep, or reflections of a passing car. Yeah, there can be all kinds of different things that could trigger that false motion. It's one of the things. It's like motion sensors are really great, but PIR, the acronym used a lot with those, is passive infrared. It's just looking for infrared signals of motion changing, and so it's not always 100% accurate all the time, and can be tricky to automate well. That's why personally I like to go more on the side of door sensors, buttons, or then full on over with like millimeter wave presence sensors. But the problem with presence sensors, of course, too, is those aren't always super fast. Sometimes they can have speed issues. So nothing's perfect, and that's why I tend to lean to more where I can automate. I use door sensors and buttons, and so maybe that could be something where you put a contact sensor in the door when the door opens the garage. Like the door for humans, not the door for cars. Then that could turn on the lights for 10 minutes or something. Nope. Unfortunately, there's no way to really integrate that with HomeKit. Yeah, you can do the HomeBridge route, but it is tricky, and that's another good point to bring out. We were talking about HomeBridge and scripted and other things to integrate video in the past, or in with Apple Home. but that can quickly drain the battery of the product, depending on if it's a battery camera or whatever, and if it's trying to continue to process the video there. So, yeah, unfortunately, there's not really a good option in that respect. My advice, if you have like a Eufy doorbell or something like that that you're happy with, just keep using it. It's probably a good doorbell, and you're not going to get an Apple Home, which is a downside, but like I would just live with that downside, especially if I weren't, reviewing tech on YouTube. But there's still a lot of benefits to just having a doorbell that's good and reliable and works, and it might be better than if you got a HomeKit one that continued to drop from your Wi-Fi. That's, the Aqara and Belkin ones are probably what I go with if you went at HomeKit, like we talked about earlier. But just, the grass isn't necessarily always greener, and then there's also sort of middle of the road, a little bit of both doorbells out there as you're looking at Apple Home doorbells, like the Ecobee one that I have on my doorbell on my door right now, as well as the Arlo one, and those provide a live video feed to Apple Home, but they do not support Apple's HomeKit Secure Video. To get recorded clips, you need to go through their respective video subscription services. The Arlo one also, keep in mind, requires a bridge. So something to keep in mind there. But yeah, doorbells. It's a exciting part of smart home tech, but sometimes tricky to get exactly what you want. Yep, the aspect ratio, yeah. So, it's 16:9 widescreen, which of course, when you have someone standing close to the door, might chop off their head. So I'm hoping next year at CES, we see a doorbell from Aqara. Now, this leads me to my last point, which I had a bunch of other stuff I wanted to talk about today, and we just got into smart home questions. It was a great discussion, a lot of fun. But one thing, don't miss this if you are watching, and that's, we were talking about last week a lot of the new WWDC features announced around smart locks, and there's this new. Some of it's coming with the new Matter standard for Aliro locks, and it's all cool in terms of the ideas. Express mode, where you can just walk close to your door and then automatically unlocks. Ways you'll be able to share a home key pass with other people, but just keep in mind that those features probably aren't going to find their way into products you could buy and put in your home and that work reliably for at least another year, potentially longer, because manufacturers, they've already known about a little bit about this Matter Aliro spec, but we'll have to probably see those locks announced, hopefully at CES next year, if not after that. And then people like myself get them, try them. Chances are, if the past Matter accessories are any sign, there'll be a ton of software bugs with the initial versions. And so you probably don't want to buy it right away unless you're fine with having a lot of bugs on your front door lock. And then there'll be software updates, and then they'll become reliable. So, if you need a lock today or need a lock in the next year and a half that's smart, there are a lot of great options, and there will be more coming out in the rest of the year. So just keep that in mind as you're thinking about should I wait for the new Apple Home standard, or the new Matter / Apple Home Key standard for locks or not? Apple's made a lot of announcements there that are very forward looking, and I think it's tricky. I almost wonder if Apple sort of pulled these announcements just because they knew they were sort of already public with Matter and they wanted to show that they were supporting them, but because also, because they were so focused on Apple Intelligence, understandably, they didn't have quite as much otherwise to talk about with Apple Home. So we'll see, but it's just kind of something I wanted to mention as well, reiterate that don't necessarily, think that you need to get those locks, or need to wait for those locks. But with that, it's been great talking to you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your Friday and your weekend. And I'll see you in the next video.